Hey there, everyone. This is Dr. Yam. This is the Small Biz Boutique YouTube channel, as well as the Jumpstart Your Dream Biz Masterclass. It is a pleasure to have you all back for another run. We are going to get started in just a quick second. If you have not already done so, let's make sure that we've gotten our journals gathered, pens, we're comfortable, we got us a nice beverage on the side so we can consume not only information, but a little beverage or a snack on the side of your choice. So again, this is Jumpstart Your Dream Biz, a masterclass for aspiring entrepreneurs who want to jump off their fear fences with confidence and launch the dream biz that they've always desired to do. If you have not already done so, please accept the StreamYard link so that you can post your comments. And you'll also notice, for those who are watching in the recorded session as well, for those in the live session, please also make sure that instructions and everything are inside of our private Facebook group where you have access to all the other resources. And those of you who are watching this as a recorded video, that you have links to the resources as a part of your e-course. So as we get started, for those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Yam, your Keep It Simple coach for Jumpstart Your Dream Biz Facebook group for aspiring entrepreneurs, as well as for the Small Biz Society, where we are DIY newbie entrepreneurs who are getting it done using content marketing strategies to help them to build and grow their business. We are going to be carrying on with our training today. We have concluded Module 1, which composes of 3 lessons. I'm going to do a quick review of that, and then we're going to get into our Module 2 and several lessons that we're going to be getting access to as well. So for those of you, also there is a phone number for our live session so that if you care to, you can ask questions. So we'll get that started as well. Now, that being said, let me get us going on our slide deck. Hold on one second. So we're going to need to do that as well. So we have that ready. Okay, that's in the queue. All right. And alrighty, welcome everyone. This is again Module 2 of the Jumpstart Your Dream Biz Masterclass. Let me take us off. There we go. And we're going to get started. Hello again, everyone. We're going to get started with Lesson 4. And we're going to pick up where we left off. If you recall, this is a quick refresh for those who may have just joined our sessions, or again, as you're continuing on in the recorded versions with the e-course. We concluded our last module by completing 3 of the lessons. Lesson 1 was really focusing on your success from your mindset for success and making sure that we had not only an ability to understand what entrepreneurship is, but also how is it that you're going to be able to get your head in the game and be successful at the same time. Oh, hold on one second. There we go. Just making sure. All right. And then we have Module 2, where we got into defining your driving vision and your mission, because doing so is going to allow you to make the proper decisions and align yourself with the ideal customers that you're going to get ready to do. So we got some great activities. Hopefully you were able to complete those lesson activities that you had as a result of last week's work. And then we wrapped up on session 3, where we really had a chance to talk about picking out the right business for you and what does that really mean. And so we had a chance to identify your strengths and seeing how is it by playing to your strengths is the ideal way that you're going to ensure that you're able to tap your talents and be able to clarify your business idea in such a way that you're going to be able to bring in the revenue that you desire. And I left you with a little bit of a math equation for you to fulfill as well. All of those are part of the lesson activities that were found in each one of those sessions. So please, if you have not already done so, circle back and you can do those as well. So we're going to go on with module 2, which is going to consist of a couple additional lessons. And so we're in lesson 4. And in lesson 4, this is really the kind of critical component when it comes to working on your business. And that has to do with identifying your target audience. Who do you want to buy from you and tap into your talents? And so we want to make sure that we get off on the right foot. So you will hear target audiences a lot, not only in this particular session, but as we continue on. It's not something that's fixed. It's something that's fluid. You're going to keep refining it, so particularly at the very beginning, just out of the pure nature of the work. So just know that as we talked before, you'll hear the term about your niche, and the riches are in the niches. So how is it that we can capitalize on your talents, identify your customer target audience so that we'll have that opportunity for you to reap the results in your revenue. So let's get started. So when we think about your module 4, we're going to also be looking at investigating how profitable that business idea that you can be. And we're also going to identify that ideal customer. So both of those are what we're going to really focus in on this particular module. So take out your handouts. We have downloads again inside of the Facebook group units that you have, as well as there are links if you're using this as an e-course. So when we think about your ideal customer or your target audience, it's kind of interconnected by way of your the way in which you want to run your life and the ideas that you have in identifying them. So the question you're going to always be asked is there a demand, an existing demand for the chosen business area in that idea that you have? Now remember, we're not asking you to be so innovative that it has to be totally out of the box, but you do want to make sure that there is a demand, because if there's a demand, people are willing to pay money. And the source, you want to be able to get your piece of the pie, right? So you want to make sure that if that is the case and that you do know that people are already buying from somebody else of a similar product, then there's a market out there for you. And whereas if you're looking and you're researching, which you're going to do a lot of, by the way, you're going to make sure that there are already those existing customers, that you're going to get your slice out of that. Now, the other thing is that you want to be able to ask yourself is, are you adding value to the existing market? So what's going to be your spin, your take on that target audience by way of your product or your service that is going to kind of separate you from the others? Again, you're not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but you certainly want to make sure that your wheel is not squeaky, or is squeaky enough that you're going to be able to attract other people to it. So can you provide, another question is going to be, are you able to provide did something just happen on my screen? Oh, sorry guys. Sorry, my screen just went away. you want to make sure that you have an ability to offer a unique way of a solution to the problems that people have. And remember, the whole point of going into business for yourself is that you're problem solving for someone else. Is either going to be a way that you bring in a solution to everyone by way of a product or by way of a service. And so, what is it that's going to be something that's somewhat unique to the world, and what's that contribution going to be like? Let me just circle back to the group real quick. Give me a heads up in your comments. Make sure that everyone is able to, if you have any questions of what I just covered in regards to, again, existing market, how you're adding value, and what's the unique solution that you're bringing to the table. Those are the questions you're going to continue to ask yourself as we move forward. Okay? All right, all good. Thank you. Oh, I know what it is. Sorry, my screen over here. There we go. There we go. All right. So then once you've identified this, you'll find the answers by doing the research. Now, I know everybody's like, oh man, I just want to get to the fun stuff. Well, I'm just here to tell you. The fun stuff is getting the results. In order to get results, you're going to have to dig your heels in. You're going to have to do a little bit of research. So if that's not something that you're accustomed to doing, it just may take you a little longer and you may need some help, but it is necessary for you to get the research done. Now, you're going to find those answers, like I said, in the research. So you're going to determine whether or not you have a chance of that financial success with that idea. Because you may find out through the research that the idea that you have may not be as viable as you might have thought. And so there, again, is your opportunity to do some tweaking. So don't be too married to the idea that you have in your head. So I just kind of want to ease the pain in case the data is not showing things as you might have liked it to, but the data doesn't lie. So we do want to make sure. So no matter what the business project is, research is going to be critical for you. So what you want to first do, and this is part of your exercise in your handouts, is that you're going to want to research what is already selling. And this means you're going to be looking at the competition. And this is healthy research. You want to know what other people are doing because you want to be better than what they're doing, right? You want to be equal or better in order for you to enter into the race. And so here are some places that you're going to be able to do that research. You're going to do it online, okay? So, of course, you're going to do some research on Google and inside of YouTube, believe it or not. Those are going to be two critical spaces that you're going to have access to. So you're going to want to put your business product into the search engine, whatever your idea is, and you'll probably want to find some pages and with, looking through those results as you are accustomed to doing, I'm assuming. That this is not foreign to you about going online and looking up, researching. When you look up how to do something or buy something, you're using a search engine. And by the way, YouTube is a search engine, believe it or not. So that's why I'm having you go through both. Google, Bing, and YouTube are search engine. And it's there is where you're going to look up that topic that you are looking to have the idea centered around, and then see what's coming up. The first thing, of course, you want to ignore is those paid advertisements that's coming up on the top of your screen. But you should also be mindful that there are people out there advertising for that topic. So that's going to give you an indication that people are already investing money to do that type of work. Okay, and also. What's resonating on that first results page, right? So those are your target, that's your competition. And then you want to dig deeper into the competition to see exactly what is it that they're doing, because they are resonating enough that the algorithms inside of Google are recognizing them and ranking them high in the results. So it's not just randomness. There is an algorithm, which is an analytical calculation of set of data that the resources like Google and YouTube are doing. So you want to spend some time on those sites and looking at the videos as well. Sorry. And on the first page, to kind of see what it is that they're offering. So I'm going to go ahead and advance here. Anyway. Another space for you to do some research in is going to be Amazon. Now, there are several listings out there, so particularly when it comes to products, so not so maybe so much in service. However, you can do market research on the topic. So if there's a topic by way of their books or by product lines that people that are relevant to your topic of your idea for your business, this is what you want to be able to do the research on inside of Amazon as another potential space to do so. Because again, people are buying stuff all the time or relevant things. So don't, even if you're service-based, you need to be looking at the books and seeing what books relevant to your topic are selling, because that will too give you some indication as to how things are working and who's ranking as well. And go through all the competition and do the digging that you're going to need to do. Okay. Okay. Any questions on researching? Just I'm going to give a pause. Okay. Now, let's see here. Give me 1 second. Once we've gone through the that type of research, your next step is to make notes from your research. This is, again, viable and valuable information, and it's just going to get you a guide to get you started off. Again, you're not married to this information, but it does give you at least a sense for what's taking place, what are some things that you want to be knowledgeable around, so that you can figure out if you're heading in the right direction, and if not, what might you need to do a little differently. So that's the reason for why we do the research. And when we do our one-on-ones, for those of you in the live masterclass, I wanted you to be able to share with me your findings and letting me know exactly what it is that you came to understand about your target audience, because that's going to help you. Here's the other clincher about doing this research. It's going to save you some moolah. And what I mean by that is that the better you know the audience that you're trying to attract, the easier it's going to be for you to connect with them, as well as it is for you to put the ads in front of that particular audience as well. So the more refined of the database that you have, the better. So you want to remember to discover, taking those snapshots, right? This is a date and a time and a place. Things may evolve over time and may change, particularly if there's anything that's going that may be a bit on the trendy side. So you also want to be mindful of that. But you're going to refine this data over and over again as you continue to look at your products and look at your services. But we'll be returning to looking at your competitors in a later module as well. But this is, again, just a good place for you to start. Okay. Now, sorry about that. No. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, we're moving on. So here again, when we want to define your target audience, the next step is identifying that customer. So these are going to be the people who want and need to have the offer that you're going to put in front of them. So these are the people who you would like to have as your customer as well. And they are probably already maybe even purchasing this product or service from someone else. Remember, we're trying to get a piece of the pie. I like Apple. So before you can find them and market to them, you want to define them in a very specific way. And again, what we call niching down. So you're not going to have everybody as your customer. I know everybody thinks that they can and would love to have everybody in the world wants my stuff. No, they don't. So as much as I'm the keep it simple coach, I'm also the reality coach. Everybody doesn't want your stuff. It's not realistic. But we do know that there is a subset of people out there who would love to have your stuff, provided you present it to them in a way that they're going to resonate with you. So, do you have any idea of who would be best to fit your particular business idea? Who is that ideal customer and what do they look like? So, here's a few examples that I put together so that you can kind of figure out about clearly defining that target audience for yourself. So, for instance, it may be a shopping network that targets working moms over the age of 30. It may be a career counselor who targets men facing redundancy in the chemical industry. It may be an online app store. What do I have here? That targets teens who see themselves as alternative. There may be a camping goods supply store that's targeting people in the holiday areas. It may be a kitchen designer who is targeting upper middle class cooking aficionados. So as you can hear the terminology, that's how specific you want to get in your target audience. It's not just going to be something broad and vague, because the broad and vague are going to get you broad and vague lookers. And they're not going to be the ones who have the propensity to want to buy from you. So you want to be as specific as you possibly can. And that you're probably wondering, well, if I'm that specific, how can I possibly reach that particular audience? But you can. Remember, there are millions and millions and millions of people online. And then if you're also working in your local community, there's a way in which you can use the same target audience in your local community. But this is why it's important to understand in that research, is it even a viable product to begin with? If it's a viable product and other people are buying it or service and other people are spending money with other people, then it's just a matter of how you're going to do your marketing and putting yourself in front of them, because you are unique. And so you're going to bring that unique story to the table. Okay. But those were just some examples. And so we'll hear some more. So I'm loving to hear what yours is going to look like as well. Uh-oh. The screen just broke. Okay, moving on. So you're going to come up with a definition of your ideal customer by running your research on demographics. So things are going to look like your age, if it's relevant. So things that are relevant to your product and your service. When you think of your customer, your ideal target profile, okay, is it an age specificity? Is the product and the service something that makes sense for the person who's in a particular age bracket, like the example I mentioned showed you, over the age of 30? Is it for teenagers? Is it for parents or age, over the age of 65? Is it for your senior communities? Then there might be gender. There may be location. Again, if you want to get something, if you're offering services because of a locale, that could make a difference. Or when I speak of location, demographically speaking, that could also mean rural living, suburban living, urban living, lakeside living, those types of location, geographically speaking. Maybe family situations. Is it married? Are they single? Are they single parents? Are they same-sex parenting? Adopted families, parents, or things along those lines. So any type of family situation may also play a part. It may not, and that's okay, but you want to get down to those specifics. So you're going to try to define that ideal customer with demographics, as well as what we call sometimes your psychographics. That's another way of putting it. The other thing to kind of think of is their interests, books that they like to read, the dreams that they have for themselves in their future. Demographics are is going to help you to recognize the audience that you're striving for. This the more specific, the better. Okay, see if that's going to open up for me. Also, when you're researching your group, again, interest, and also telling them about the types of behaviors and their why. Like, why are they looking for your product? What problem do they have? For instance, it could be the male recent retiree with no social outlet, the ex CEO who's who's an empty nesters, or things along those like. What are those behaviors? This may be a change in life. It could be a celebration in life. It could be, like I said, we have people who specifically are working with empty nesters, things along those lines. So, oh, okay. Um, those are types of behavioral types of things, and what those whys are that you're striving for. So here may be some major challenges when it comes to um, making those collections of data with those target audiences. So things that they may be worrying them. There may be things that are keeping them up at night. There could be things that may be in their heads, and it's a problem that they, are regularly faced with. For instance, I have a friend. She helps women who are wives of firefighters. Um, and that's a very specific niche of a clientele, right? That's a community of women that she helps them in that lifestyle of being a new wife to a husband or a wife, if there are women firefighters, right? So if your spouses are firefighters, and so she supports that community. So because certainly a different lifestyle. It's a stressful lifestyle, and how one survives and works through those things, and making that their new normal, right? So again, once you know this, then you can start to consider the offers that you're going to be able to bring them as a part of a solution. So in her case, she's a coach, and that's her expertise, and she's also a psychologist. So, and of course, she is a spouse of a firefighter. So it resonates with her, and she's able to make those connections also because of her backstory, which you'll hear about in a minute as well. So those are things that are going to help you. So once you know that, it's going to help you to create the solution to the problem. And that's what you're always going to be thinking about. What is it that I'm doing that's going to be a solution to someone else's problem? That's the whole point of starting your business. Agree? I certainly hope so. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate. You can write them here in the chat. You can get on the line, and you can do a call in. And you can always direct message me afterwards. And for those of you who are watching this for e-course, you can certainly, again, email me or direct message me as well. Okay, so there are many ways you're going to find out this information. And so you go where your customers hang out, and on social media, particularly we're talking about for online. So that's where you're going to hang out. So it could be Facebook, it could be LinkedIn, it could be Instagram, it could be Twitter, it could be anywhere that you feel as though your niche of people are hanging out. If it's in localized areas, then where do they hang out now? If you're going into a restaurant business or some type of maybe catering and things like that, where does your ideal customer hang out? And you'll probably want to, be in some of those groups and kind of start to weigh in and listen in. So just like you're a part of this particular Facebook group, You want to start doing your research also is finding out where are your customers online. If there is, are there communities of women or men or gender neutral people that are hanging out inside of other communities that you want to kind of listen and for trigger words and what are they talking about inside of those communities and kind of doing your background information or what we call sneaking in on the competition. Now, another thing that you'll be able to do is you may want to consider doing online surveys. You could use SurveyMonkey or you could use Google Forms, and you can create surveys and get your target customers to give you the feedback and in completing them. Another thing is you can do in your blog writing, if you haven't already done so in this particular case, but inside of blogs, you can offer questions and getting some insight and some feedback is another way. The other piece that you have, again, those online groups and asking Q&A sessions and kind of tapping into seeing what's being talked about so you can kind of get a sense for what are the questions that are being asked and can you offer an answer. Not that you would do it in the group, by the way. I do want to be mindful and respectful of other owners of the group. They've built those groups for a reason, but you just want to have that kind of takeaway. And again, just checking out the trends inside of social media on those on topics. What are things that are coming about? People are asking or commenting about or showcasing their work. For instance, if you are your community is maybe artists, then we need to figure out art showings and galleries and just things that are trending. Looking at your journals, things that are trending in information, and how is it that what are the topics that are being spoken about that you'll want to tap into. Now, once you've gathered your information, you'll want to build that profile of that one person, that ideal person who's going to embody all of those ideal traits that we just talked about. And you're going to put those together in a kind of like a 21 questionnaire that's going to help you to come up with your profile. So I have that in your handout as well. And you're going to give that person a name as well. So that's going to be the fun part. Let me circle back right here. All righty. All right. Now, another thing to understand is that a common concern for people starting a business is being specific about that ideal customer. Again, it saves you money and it saves you time. So you want to think about, because some people think that if I don't offer it to a broad audience, I'm going to miss out on a lot of business. And thinking that a wider casted net is going to offer you some type of a better result. And the fact is, it's not. It's the exact opposite. Because you may attract a lot of people, but they're not going to be the right people. And so you're just weeding through a bunch of, waste in a sense, because they're not the ideal people who are there for the right reasons. And so don't be afraid to be specific. The more specific you are, the more you're going to attract those specific customers. Niche marketing is what we're calling it. Okay. So don't get caught up in thinking that, you don't know the numbers, and that's why the research is just really important. So when you're thinking about marketing, on a marketing approach itself, and we'll get into more details, but just at a high level, your products and your services are what are appealing to that narrow defined market. And it makes sense, right? Because after all, if you are in the business for selling retirement plans, you're not going to want to get people in your 20s, do you? You don't want to get those in your results, 20-year-olds, because that's not who you're marketing to, right? So you're just wasting your time otherwise. So the more specific you want to be, the better. Okay. Any questions on that before I move on? Great. Don't hesitate to connect in. So if you need to niche down to a more specific audience, don't feel bad. I've niched down from my humble beginnings. So just know that a lot of it comes from the demands. And as well as we might have thought that our niche was one thing, it can get refined as you start to evolve as a business owner. So just know that it's a process in and of itself. So let's use some examples that we kind of came up with in the earlier in the module that's going to kind of illustrate this approach. So the original idea may be vague, but through your research, you're going to be able to refine that and get it down to something more specific. So here's an original idea. The original idea was, I want to help business owners work more efficiently. All right, that's nice. It's very broad though. Now here's an alternative to a specific audience. I want to help work from home moms save time in their business by introducing planning systems. Now, you see the difference? You see how specific that is? Another one. I want to sell beauty products. Okay, that's nice. Here's a specific niche. I want to sell cruelty-free makeup to women over 50 who want to take care of their skin. See the difference? That's who you're going to attract. Here's another idea. The general business idea started as, I want to introduce healthy cooking into my town. So this is maybe something of a local industry. A specific niche for the same individual turned out to be, I want to provide vegan street food to students in my neighborhood. Notice the difference in the specificity? So, and then you can even envision that way clearer than you could have with just, I want to introduce healthy cooking in my town. Well, everybody's definition of healthy cooking is not the same, because for some people, healthy cooking just means it could be high fat but low salt, and they think they're being healthy, just as an example. So there's different ways. So the better that you're able to make sense, make it specific, the better for you and for them. Do we have another one? Okay. So now that you kind of have a clearer idea about who your target audience is going to be, you're going to need to, one, research the competition, take your business idea and see if it needs to niche down to something more specific now that you know what that's really going to require in order for you to start to talk to the ideal customer that you're going to have. So we're going to be building this out. I also put inside of the group, and you have this as a link in your e-course, for an ebook. It's called Do You Know Your Target Audience? So it just expounds in more detail about this, and we'll be going through that in more detail. And as we go through the course, and then once you go through your one-on-one sessions, you'll also have an opportunity to talk those things out and help me help you. Okay, so any questions on what we've covered so far? Okay, and again, always know that you can ask questions along the way. Now, here's a bonus activity. So we talk about the demographic aspect and the psychometrics of your target audience. There's a whole nother aspect that you'll want to think about. And this is understanding what we call buying triggers. And so the Brasco Marketing Group created these 9 identifying buying triggers, and that each one, we're going to visit each one in a little bit so you can kind of get a sense. And the reason why I share this with you is because it's a great tool when you get down to writing your marketing copy. So you have to think about, again, the messaging. So once we've gotten your target audience defined, then you got to start thinking about how are you going to communicate with them? And then what are the triggers that you want to put into practice given the nature of your solution to the problem that they have? So you have a link. I'm going to take you to the website as well. So give me 1 second here, and we'll bring that up. Give me 1 sec. Oops. I will share my screen with you guys. Okay, let me bring up my screen to you guys. So again, emotional triggers are going to be another viable piece of armor that you're going to have to connect with your customers. So let me bring up this one for you guys. Here we go. All right. So as you can see my screen, and again, you have the link inside of your handbooks as well. But I just want to give you a quick overview. You'll get time to circle back on this, but it's a great way of looking at emotional triggers. Remember, people buy out of emotion. It's just a part of a process. The question becomes, how can you influence the customer's buying behavior by understanding better what triggers the emotions that's going to take them from thinking about it to actually pulling the trigger and wanting to make the purchase from you. So there are 9 emotional triggers, and they don't have a particular order. They do all have different aspects. So the first one that you have is fear. So in this particular case, it's kind of like the fear of missing out is one thing, right? So in most cases, this works. People, you may be, when you're doing an offer, sometimes if it's being time sensitive, or there's a fear for doing something in particular, they're feeling uncomfortable. And so each one of the triggers is identified with what it is and then how it can be used. So as an example, when we think about a fear trigger, usually it's something that could be something that's timely. So in this example, they're speaking about, if you don't want to miss out on the event, buy your ticket now. That in and of itself gives you, notice the language that's simple but relevant to playing to the emotion of fear, that you don't want to miss out on anything like that, right? Time's going to tick-tocking away. Another factor could be time. And in this case, again, it's used a lot for feelings as well. And it also depends on situations. So in this particular example, it's, if we're busy, we always want to be able to do things that are right. Or if it's timely enough, some things may be seasonal, you're making a particular promise. So it could go a long way. So in this particular example, they're looking at, save time for cooking, right? So we think about maybe go back to that example of the cook or the restaurateur, there may be a mobile person, they were doing that whole thing about healthy living, right? So in this particular case, they are speaking to them. I want to save you time. I want to save you money so that you can have time with your family. And it's a win-win. So you're going to try this today. So this is about the emotional trigger is time. And we've probably had those experiences before. There's things that we want to do to save us time. We may buy a gadget because it's going to save us time. So the other trigger is trust. Now, this one in particular, it has to do more so with service-based industries than it is even for product. Not to say that they don't, but it weighs more heavier for service-based businesses. But in this particular case, it's not, it's like mean what you say and say what and do what you mean what you do. So again, here's an example in this one. Your opinion matters, and we want to deliver the best experience possible. Fill out the survey so that we can continue to fulfill your expectations. So the fact that they're being transparent, that they want to be forthcoming, they want to give you the best experience possible, is they want to get the feedback. and they understand that they view value, quality, and so therefore you want to be able to build that trust factor between the customer and the business. Another trigger emotional is going to be that of value. Again, now we're talking about more of some of it could be values from a personal stance that people are taking. This could, could be the value of money in and of itself, but it could kind of show up in a couple of different ways. But it does help people to make those personal decisions, and so you want to make sure that they're basing it, and it's all based on a judgment call. So in this particular example is, save lots of Benjamins by doing this one simple trick. Now, depending who your audience is, whether or not that would have resonated with someone, because they would have had to know, what do you mean by save lots of Benjamins? So again, that language and who you're talking to is going to make a difference. Whether or not an 80-year-old woman or man who lives in rural America would have understood that term probably was not that ideal customer, would you say? Let me circle back. All righty. So there's where when we talk about marketing language, is things like that are going to come up from time to time. And so you want to make sure it all makes perfect sense at the time. Okay, what else we got here? Another trigger is belonging. And so again, that sense of validation, the desire of becoming or being in something. So here again, as is defined, lifetime fitness, forever friends. So in this particular example, it's about transformation. It's about being a part of a community. It's about engaging in a gym type of an experience with a coach, maybe, or maybe where your place where you're going to create new friendships inside of this space in this community. And so again, the sense of belonging is an emotional trigger for some people. So you have to think about your offer, your ideal customer, and what are some of these emotional triggers that you could utilize, because that may help you with your tagline when it comes to your business. Just as much as we talked about your personal mission statement and your vision, right? And those keywords, same is going to hold true about your tagline or your slogan, and how those are the connecting things that you're going to be using in your marketing as well. Now, another trigger could be guilt. For instance, you watch those commercials for the dogs, the ones who were left for dead, and somebody came to their rescue, and it's a sad story, and you feel really helpless, and that's a form of guilt, right? So that's an emotional trigger. You would never want that to happen to a dog that you owned or to a child in this, as an example, right? You don't want them to feel helpless. That's playing on the emotional trigger of guilt. Another one is self-gratification. So in this particular case, that instant access to signing up for free today, that's something people want to know, that I can get something right away, feel the results, try you out. And so could that be a trigger? So the great thing about the emotional triggers is you don't have to tap into just one. There are 9 of them. You won't need all 9 to tap into, but these are just ways for you to think about how is it that you can make those connections to that ideal audience that you're building out. These are things to be mindful of moving forward. So this is a great cheat sheet. Another one is leadership, having that authority. Maybe it's leadership in the fact that, you come from an industry and you were a leading salesperson, or you led teams, you developed people, you grew an organization. So people lean into a trigger of leadership, because leadership is influence. And so you want to make sure people look to people who have capacity to lead others, and they know, like, and trust. And so feeding into that as a particular channel and an emotional trigger is something else that you can really tap into. And then number 9, again, competition. So be the best dressed for the new year. Sign up for our latest arrival. So again, Nothing wrong with a little competition. You just want to make sure that you are in contrast enough that it makes sense and you can tap into an opportunity to say that you are better than another entity without saying their name, of course. So, but again, 9 emotional triggers that you can really think about for your business and how you're going to be able to make those connections again. So, great resource. Make sure you save the link when you do tap into it. Again, it's inside of your resource book, your activity book. Okay. But again, remember, you're not going to use all 9. Just so you're clear. Don't feel overwhelmed. Like, oh my God, I'm going to use all these. You don't have to worry about that. Okay. Let me switch back over. All right. So I hope you found that to be helpful. So in this particular end of lesson 4, we're going to, your quick win is you have now an ability for you to identify that customer profile by using maybe a questionnaire or doing some deep diving into some of those online communities or checking out other social media platforms or just even in your local neighborhood. You want to research that business idea using the different search engines like Bing and YouTube and Amazon as places so that you could be tapping into, even Reddit for that matter. And again, revisit the idea and see if you need to niche it down to get to a more specific audience. The data is going to help you quite a bit. All righty, so let's transition. Oops. We're going to go into, hold on, module number. Let me go to mine. All right, so we're now going to be going into module number 5. So in module number 5, we're really thinking about how is it that what is it that we want to decide in the form of an offer, and how that offer is going to help to best meet the needs of your customer. All righty. This is the fun stuff. I like this one. I love all my units, don't get me wrong. But this one in particular is always a fun one. So here the objective is you want to do kind of a step-by-step approach to creating that business that's going to be right for you. So you're going to carry over the information we just came out of in lesson number 4. And then you want to really think about, now that you know the who you're talking to and what you're going to sell, then you want to start thinking about the product or the service that you want to launch. So the way in which you start a business is to influence the lifestyles of others that you're aiming for. And so in this particular case, a sales success of a product or a service for your business proposes is influenced by, the value you're able to demonstrate to that potential customer. And that's where you're going to make those connections again. So you want to be able to bring those two things together, the solution as well as the way in which you're going to deliver that solution to your particular customer. Whether or not you're going to be a service-based business or a product-based business, or maybe a combination of both. And in either case, you want to make sure that by combining the two that you're going to make your life easier and you want to make your customers satisfied. So in this module, we're going to kind of step through each one of the things of how do you create the business that's going to be right for you, and then choosing the product and the services that you're going to want to launch as a part of your business plan. So A business is a way of a company selling a product or a service to a customer. That's pretty simple, right? Now, there's different types of business models that suit different types of businesses. And so there's, of course, digital. You have products and services, as well as you have an e-commerce, which, of course, are moving the business a long way away from maybe a brick and mortar. That's not to say that there's either one is better than the other. In most cases, as we can have recently experienced, depending on the time in which you're watching this, is it's always going to be best, even for our brick and mortar types of instances, that you're needing to have an online presence. So that is going to require an additional set of commitment and support in the way in which you're delivering and rolling out your business, is that you're always going to have to keep that in mind. Um, and wanting to make sure that you can distribute and meet the needs of your particular customer. And there are also other modules that are going to be available where we'll start up for, the startup entrepreneurs themselves. But there's three basic things that are going to come to mind. So when we think of a product or a service, your business makes or sells a product that you own or a service. So this can be something that's packaged and is distributed either online for the consumer to buy through an e-commerce type of a portal, or it's something that they're going to come into a store in a traditional kind of brick and mortar setting and take it off the shelf or rack and purchase it. And they kind of have a similar approach, but at the same time, there are some differences just out of the nature of the dynamic of buying and selling. So a marketing consultant who sells a consulting engagement for a monthly retainer fee is different than an aromatherapy specialist who has a local store who is selling the oils and the diffusers and things along those lines, right? That they're selling. So that dynamic is different. Not to say one is better or worse, but at the same time, the agent who's doing the aromatherapy, they have the e-commerce that they can sell the store online as much as they can have a front-facing type of a business. So you'll have those things to offer. So that's one thing, product or service. Another thing could be you may have a business solution where you're a reseller. Now, you are buying other people's products and then you're selling them at a profit base for the price difference, and that's how you're making your money as a kind of a middle man. And then some people, that's all they do. They don't have to manufacture anything. They don't have to be the deliverer of services. They're simply the money, the middleman in a sense. Your eBay and your Amazon types of sellers are kind of like in that reseller space. Another one is just your person-to-person exchanges. And you're thinking, what is that? Well, what that is it's when a buyer and a seller come together and they exchange by a transactional fee. The best example I can give you is Airbnb. An Airbnb business, which a lot of people have, which a lot of people do, it is a transactional exchange. I have a space, you make a reservation, you pay, I'll let you stay, you leave, I get my money, transaction is done. So that was a person-to-person type of an exchange, or it could be even from a bartering perspective. But again, can have some revenues. I know several people that's all they do is have several Airbnb spaces and they're making good money just out of that alone. So you never know. But those are just types of options that you have. Okay, let me check on my comments here. Okay. Okay, no worries. The next thing to consider is, how to choose your business model. Now, you may be thinking that it may not be a hard decision to make. However, when you're running a business, you do have some drawbacks, and depending on your business model, for example, if you wanted to have the freedom to travel, then and work anywhere from anywhere, then having a brick and mortar store is probably not going to be the best idea for you. So there's those types of things you want to kind of keep in mind. Um, on the other hand, if you're going to prefer that face to face with clients, maybe you are a salon owner, maybe you do a hair, beauty, fashion, and so avoiding online courses and stuff works good for you because you don't want to be messing with it anyway. You are a direct to consumer type of a business operation, and so that makes sense. You're service based. You're not really needing an online presence for transactions. So you know that that's the type of framework that you're going to be working within. So those are just some of the things that you may just need to be thinking about when choosing the model. May not be a hard decision to make, but if your lifestyle is a certain way, that you certainly want to keep all those things and keep those things in mind, is something that you want to make sure that you do. So again, when you're thinking about your business idea, I want you to envision what does life look like for you with you running that business idea? What will you do day to day? How is this going to impact your family, your own lifestyle? Um, what vision do you have for yourself? Are you looking to change the lifestyle that you're currently in? Are you tired of doing the drive back and forth? For those of you who are transitioning from your 9 to 5 and you're hating the whole lifestyle of commuting, or living in the urban setting, this will work for you, and you're striving that you want a lifestyle where you can have more rural access to the sourcing that you want to have for the type of business, a restaurant style business that you want to run. And so these are just some of the things you want to think about. Going into business requires a lot of thought. And so deciding on that model is going to help you getting your starting point off in the right direction and on strong footing. Oops. Sorry. Well, as you get closer to understanding better about your business, now that you have a vision and you have a mission, you have a type of business, you understand who your customer is, you understand what some of those emotional triggers are going to be, you understand that what is the lifestyle that you want to have. Um, you then need to decide about how you want to operate that business. So in this particular case, you need to be sure that the values that you are going to offer to your customers, and do they get a clear sense of your unique value proposition? And what could that be? So when we think about it from your perspective, you're thinking about a unique proposition is what do you do that's extra? What makes you different? And what is the offer that you're making that's different as well? That unique value proposition. Because remember, you're not the first one out the gate to be a stylist, a salon stylist, beautician, or a nails or esthetician, right? You're not the first one out the gate. But what do you do that makes you different from the others? What can you differ in your offering? And what do you do that may be the extra that kind of goes above and beyond? That's your unique value proposition. It's great to have a product and a service, but what's going to keep you, highlight you, and separate you from the masses in a thing? So what could that be for yourself? How could you add additional value to your potential customers that they won't get from from the competition? So that's what you want to start thinking about. You want to be kind of like go over and above the calling in a sense. And what could that look like for people? And that's the advantage that you're going to have with your business solution amongst your competition. That's why you need to know what your competition is doing so you could do more and better than them. Not to say that you have to discount your prices. We don't do that. It's about the value add that you bring that's going to separate yourself from the others. Check in then. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, we're moving on. So if you're not sure what that could be, there are many things that you could add. That don't have to cost you any money either. It may just cost you a little bit on the time. It just be a little thoughtful thing. It's something simple and special. Maybe it's speeding up delivery. It could be um, unconditional money back guarantees. It could be a payment plans. Those are simple things, didn't cost you anything out your pocket. It's just a matter of being that kind of additional value add that you want to give your customers. So think about that. What is it that you're going to do different than your competition is going to stand out? Because people like those type of things and they want to make sure that what am I doing? What's worth me leaving who I do business with now to come and do business with you? So another example for your unique value proposition is, like I said, a primary reason that people should buy from you. So in Netflix, it was a difference between going to Netflix before even who was it then? Blockbuster, right? So with Netflix, their example is watch anytime, cancel anytime. There was never a real commitment. They were just trying to get you as a customer. So their competition was that there were maybe things like HBO and Showtime, and you couldn't control the shows that was their competition, right? You can't control the lineup for shows on HBO. There's a schedule. And then the other thing is you had to pay in advance, and it was a part of your cable company package. So, with that in mind, that's what kept them different and let them stand out from the crowd as an example, right? So Vimeo was another one where videos come first. So they are putting in the position that that's how they want to stand out and making them the solution for people who are looking for a space where they can host their videos. So those are just kind of examples again. So use these to kind of think about how are you going to separate yourself. Now, access to the competition. So you're focusing on defining that unique value proposition for yourself, and you're going to decide how you're going to differentiate yourself. It's essential that you know already about the market, and that's why that competition research is also going to hold true. You want to conduct a research to find out, as we talked about earlier in the other module, what is the competition doing? What is the value add that they're doing if they are doing anything? They may just be doing the standard, status quo. If that's what they're doing, it's going to make it way easier for you. If they're doing a lot, then again, you're going to have to meet them where they are and go above, because people have to see what's the value in me changing up, leaving who is already meeting my needs. And how is it that I can change that for them? Online and offline, competition still holds true. It's probably even harder offline, to be honest with you, in the online setting, because you're competing for eyeballs. And people, yes, they may be online, but you've got to be able that you're positioning yourself that you're going to stand out from everybody else. And that's where your ad copies and layouts and your creatives, as we call them, are all going to hold true. So think about it. You want to have a mix of online and offline competition research as well. Okay. Another thing to think about when I talked about Amazon, so one of the things that you can think about is look at the ratings. Same thing with Yelp ratings. If you're doing something that's a little bit more local, look at the ratings. Look what people, if they gave them a score of a 2, they're usually going to tell you in detail. I'm going to tell you why I gave them a score of a 2. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. They missed this. Da, 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 da. They typically go out of their way. If they are unsatisfied, they're going to tell you why. And so that tells you already of the expectation that customer base is already looking for. They had an expectation, it was not met. So look at reviews, Amazon in their books or in their other products as well, similar products. Look at the reviews, look at Yelp, everything matters. You want to be able to set yourself apart. Even do mystery shopping for those of you who are in my local places. You need to have a buyer's experience with the competition or send somebody in if you don't want it to be yourself, depending on the nature of your business. But get the eyeballs in front of and have the actual experience to see what did they do good, what did they do not so good, and that you can do better. So again, when you think about your UVP, you want to identify what makes your product unique, what's the extras you're going to offer, and how this is going to tie in with the benefits that the customer is looking for. And again, you're going to refine and continuously improve the process along the way. Now, the next item that we have, a little bit different, has to do with your minimum viable product. Now, here's where the rubber meets the road. You're not ready to market it yet. When you cannot ask, you don't ask, can this product be created? You're instead going to ask, should this product be created? And what I mean by that is you don't want to do, if you build it, they will come and get a bunch of products out there that you've built up, and then you want to have all this inventory, and then you're going to sell it. That's not what you want to do. I know people think that, but that's not what you want to do. You want to create what is the most ideal product that your unique, ideal customer wants right now and get that in front of them. Then you're going to be able to expand your product line and your services. If you you're wasting lots of time and lots of money if you're trying to be the solution to everybody with a bunch of choices. Keep it simple. One, minimal viable product. That out of that product, you're going to be able to expand on. So that's what we're going to talk about next. It's there's a methodology called lean startup, and it kind of comes with that same premise. You're going to start up kind of like an experiment in a way, and you're just going to attempt to ask the question, can this product hold on a second. Can it be created, and then should it be created? And then if you can build it in a sustainable business model that's going to take you on year after year, then you know that it's working. So starting with just one minimal viable product and getting really good at that gives you enough of information to base you expanding. If you start out too wide and broad and you make it your solution about any and everybody, you're making it harder for yourself essentially. But if you just drop one product, get it really good, make it work, make the tweaks, then you can surround complementary types of products to go along with it. And then you start to build up on the buyer's journey, and you could take them into these other venues, which you'll see. And when we talking about sales funnels and marketing from that perspective. Stop right here. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. So you're thinking of this kind of like a trial product. So I want you to think about it from that perspective. Your minimum viable product is like your trial baby that you're putting out on the street and seeing whether you're taking it for a ride. And so does it have sufficient value? Oops, sorry. Does it have sufficient value for sale? And do customers find it um, viable? If it delivers on a promise for your early adopters, and then getting the viable feedback from your customers so that you can make the tweaks and put the offer back into the street again. Again, you're testing the waters. That's the whole premise of a minimum viable product. Um, and then you can take it to scale. Again, if you put so much time and so much effort into a lot of products, or um, and rather than focusing on one and getting really, really good at it, you're just wasting time and money. Essentially, that's how it ends up working out. So again, you're going to answer these questions. What product or service do you propose to sell? What is the most pared down version of it? You may think, I want to do a whole suite of a suite solution of products. That's all great and good, but what's the base product? And then, did you check out the idea? And what I mean in that particular case is it right for your target audience? What are you trying to solve with it? Is what the unique viable proposition to that minimum viable product? And then how are you going to sell it? Is it going to be like a store, an e-commerce? Is it going to be a membership site? Is it going to be at a farmer's market or trade fairs? Where is this product going to show up? Those are the things you want to be mindful of. And then, of course, you do want to test your minimum viable products. You want to take it out for a small segment of your market. This is where your testing kind of comes into play. You want to get those potential testers out there to see if what you're doing makes sense. Even from a service perspective, if you're saying that I want to provide, like a 2-week service, or even an hour service, or some type of a solution, even if it's styling or makeup makeovers, you need to test your market with just that one package or service to see, does it work, and what type of feedback do you want to get from out of it. So you want to use the notes about your where your ideal customer is hanging out, and then you want to be able to approach those current customers that you have and testing them out and getting that feedback. That's how you're going to be able to make sure that what you're selling is meeting the demands that are out there, and that you can then scale it and make more money. Now, you could do this a couple of ways. You could discount the price, maybe like 50% off. Again, it's a trial. You're trying to take it out for a test drive. You may just give tasting samples for those of you who are going into some type of food ministries or food endeavors. You may just do demonstrations if it's maybe skincare things, or demonstrating how a product actually works and getting feedback from people. And then just free products. You may have some samples and sending them out so that people can use it and give you the feedback. So a couple of examples. An example could be an app developer who advertises for a group of beta testers on a new app, and they're giving it to them for free because they want people to use it and they want the feedback. It might be a startup restaurant, and they're going to give away free samples in the neighborhood to test out their menu selection and their food and their spices, and get feedback from the community because that's who they're serving. And especially as people may be driving in, you want your local community to be just as much a part of the buy-in as consumers, as those that might see it worth traveling to as a destination place to consume the food. Business coaches are offering their new online courses at maybe, I don't want to say half price, but adding more value than what they would normally have. Now, that's how you would go through some ideas around testing your minimum viable product. And then you want to be kind of creative. Um, I know it sounds like it might be a lot, and you didn't think, wow, I didn't know I was going to have to do all this. But yeah, you're going to have to do all this. Because again, it's better to test and know what you're doing and what's all the pieces and parts around it than you throwing a lot of money down the drain. So again, trying out in these different, collecting your data from those communities of users or wherever your customers are hanging out are going to be critical. And this, again, just a great way for you to see whether or not your idea is going to appeal to your audience. And if you need to, make the necessary tweaks so that you can get the pricing, and particularly getting feedback on as well. Is if they had to pay for the full price and you're saying this normally goes for 97.77, would you pay for this if it wasn't for free? You need to get that type of feedback from people. All right, so any questions that we have when it comes to your unique viable proposition and your minimum viable product? And how is it you're going to take it off for a test drive? So here are the action steps for unit lesson number 5. Your quick win is select your business model, define your unique viable proposition, and then using the questions that are in your guide, fill out the whole completion of your worksheet, and then design your minimum viable product. Again, answering the questions that are in the action guide, and that too is going to help you out to frame that out. And then you should be in good shape. Okay, let's circle back to all right, we're going to tap into lesson number 6. In lesson number 6, we're speaking now about what are some of the essentials for running your business. Now we're getting to some of what I call the meat and potatoes. So let's check it out.